think I always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Thank you all for being with us tonight. We are going to be reviewing a disaster for the double Wembley trips. And there might only be one after the loss on Tuesday night to Bradford. We'll cover that. Very, very disappointing night. We'll have a quick look back at deadline day and the transfer window as a whole, now that we're not so exhausted from the show. And we'll look ahead as well. Shrewsbury Town come on Saturday. Gareth Ainsworth, Shrewsbury Town. So that'll be dreadful, I'm sure. We'll cover all that in the next hour or so. Mick's back. How is Mick doing today?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thank you. Are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. Tom's back. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, Tom's doing all right, I guess.
Good stuff. Cheers, mate. And Kev, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm in a bit of pain. Done my knee playing pickleball, so.
Oh my god, that was a lot worse than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah.
I've got long johns on and all, yeah.
Yeah. I hope you would have showed us a bit of leg there, but you know.
We've got people with us. Martin Holland's with us. Paul Rose says, good evening. Good job we didn't book the Wembley bus. Terry Femi says, hello, everybody. One party bus down, one to go. Harry says he'd like a refund for the bus for Wembley. Can anyone direct him? Rich says, evening all. Back to normal. Noel Jordan's with us. Steve Grundy's with us. As is Cridge Page. Says, what a rotten season. Scott Kent says, evening, lads. Stuart out. It's nice to go, Scott. Like it. Let's just go back to Monday. Obviously, we did the show on deadline day. I'll start by saying thank you to everybody that joined. The numbers in the end, around 4,000 people joined in the watch on Monday. So thank you, everybody who joined in the deadline day show. We didn't bring much joy, but we did a show. Kev, obviously, you weren't on with us on Monday, but so kind of just give us your thoughts and kind of feelings of the window as a whole. I said this a little day. There's 3 signs, individual, good signings.
Yeah.
But just not enough.
Yeah, I think exactly that summed up perfectly. I think the 3 loan signings we made were our quality signings, good additions to not just the squad, the team. They'll all be starting every week, barring injuries. But like you said, just seeing the bench on Tuesday night summed the whole transfer window up. Nobody could. He didn't have anybody to bring on to change that game, apart from sort of young Josh Ayres. But you know, you're chucking someone roaring who's just been on loan at Sheffield FC. It were really poor. We needed at least 2 or 3 more, at least, and get rid of. I know we got rid of 5, but I'd have liked to see 1 or 2 more go as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Danny's with us. How you doing, Danny?
I'm doing all right, lads. How are we all?
Not so bad, mate. Thank you. What's your just quick rundown of your transfer window, Danny? You agree with what Kev just said?
I do, yeah. I think we've made some quality additions. The 3 we've brought in are really good signings. You know, Louis Sibley has proven himself at this level with Derby before. My mate at work says that the young lad from Man United is a quality addition because he's been keeping tabs on him for their under-21s. And of course, Mpazu is, again, proven at this level. He's gone from non-league to the Premier League with Luton. Again, another quality addition. But unfortunately, it's not enough players as a collective. You know, like Kev has just said there, we let 5 go, potentially could have been more, and we've not replaced that. You know, it's almost like we're replacing it with youth numbers at the minute, which, don't get me wrong, isn't a pass at the youth players. They are all good players in themselves, but I would have liked to have seen more first team players, and unfortunately trying for 1 more striker on deadline day isn't good enough in my opinion. When we're so short at the back position.
Yeah.
Harry says, I believe we can make 3 signings if needed. Yeah, the free market is up till probably March or April, but we've been stung by that market before quite a lot. So we talked about this, and obviously Paul Davis put the article out, I think, the day after the window shut, with a few bits of interesting information, to be honest with you, which would have been interesting to know. It would have been nice for the club to kind of release this officially, and also earlier than the window. So first of all, I wasn't aware this is the biggest ever playing budget we've ever had in League One, which is interesting. I mean, we can't fill a squad with that money. We still can't sign enough players to play.
We can't even pay a fee for a player, by the way.
Well, Paul Davis says that all the money we spent, no transfer fees were paid, but wages were substantial, and money accrued from sales helped pay for players, helped pay salaries. It doesn't go like Harry, so we signed this on really good money. We all know John Hugo's on a lot of money. We all know that, but he wasn't obviously signing. Just question marks. Who have we spent all this money on? Other than Clark Harris, there's no big names in it. Maybe Kelly's on a reasonable money. I don't know. No.
It's a smaller squad, though. Look at the squad. Look, if you're on the back of the program on Tuesday, Bradford had 7 more players in that squad than we did. So it's a small squad. So like you say, I wouldn't say anybody's on more than 10 grand. Clark Harris is probably on about that. So I'm sorry. I think it'll more last year.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I mean, we talked about this on the way down to Bradford, and Stephen said they need to balance the books. But you can't have the biggest playing budget ever and also need to balance the books. You're in the same season. It's kind of one or the other, and it just seems a bit mad and a bit of a mess. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. That article came as quite a surprise to me, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I've heard any of those things until that article came out. Certainly not, and I'll stand corrected here if it is true. I have not heard Steve Evans at any point mention anything about balancing the books. He may have. I've not read it or heard it. I've not heard anybody from the club talking about balancing the books. I've not heard anybody from the club or anywhere at all until this article came out about the playing budget. All I've heard is we're pushing for promotion. We're going to go for it. We're going to do this. We're going to do the other. We're well ahead of the game in terms of the transfer window. This is the stuff that's come out of the club. Completely the opposite to what Paul Davis has put in that article. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I find it a little bit condescending if I'm perfectly honest. The tone for me, the way I read it, the tone of the article is stop moaning. You should know better. We've bought in a load of players. That seems to me to be the tone of the article. Whether that's Paul Davis putting that on it or whether it's the club or whatever, I don't really know. But the stuff that's in there for me was all brand new information. We could have surmised it possibly. However, none of that information, to my knowledge, has been made public before. It's a bit late the day after the transfer window. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is, and I don't know what's going off. If the information is true, and we've got the biggest playing budget that we've had for years, and et cetera, then why was that not communicated at the beginning of the season? Because then people would understand. People will be a lot more forgiving and a lot more considered, perhaps, in the way that they approach the comments they make in relation to transfers and players. If it's the biggest playing budget we've had, how come we've been playing so poorly for the first 23 games of the season? Because it clearly isn't money well spent, or wasn't. It doesn't make sense to me. It genuinely doesn't. And it seems, as we've suspected for a while, that things aren't as they should be behind the scenes, and there didn't even seem to be any kind of coherent message coming out of the club, officially or unofficially. It just all seems a bit of a mess, a lot of a mess, and I think realistically, arguably, probably none of us really expected that much happening in the transfer window. I think we'd all kind of got to the stage where we felt that there was no real interest is probably not the right word, no real appetite from the board, the chairman, to improve the squad, to throw good money after bad, essentially. which I think is probably what maybe what the attitude's been. But yeah, the article itself, I was very, very disappointed in, because it was almost as if, well, you should know this. Why are you all moaning about it? You should all know this. None of that information's been shared, to my knowledge. I mean, I'll stand corrected if somebody can give me an article where that's been said, but I've not heard it. It just seems a bit strange, to be honest.
Yeah. A few comments. John Davis would do what he said. Yeah, it's not the biggest salary we've ever had. It's the biggest salary budget we've had in League One. Yeah, that's what he says. It's the biggest.
Yeah.
We've had in this division. So I can't balance the books. But Evans saying Tunner Stewart is asking why he's not spending his money. That's what he makes it refers to. Massive mixed messages coming out of the football club. I was finished with a quote from Steve Evans, which Paul Davis puts in the article. Which again, I'm with Nick. I've not heard any of this before, which would be helpful to hear. It's kind of November, December time. But he says that Steve Evans said there was no secret that Rotherham United, that the Stewart family are the benefactors of this club. Without them, this club would not operate at the levels of the players and staff has got. Our chairman has funded substantial losses. Losses can't continue to increase. The last 2 seasons in the Championship were very costly. We just have to manage where the budgets were at the start of the season and make sure they're akin to where we need to be going forward. Tom, it just doesn't make any sense. No. You can't tell me in November that we're in January, we're going to be in touching distance at playoffs. Promotion's kind of still on. And then tell me at the end of the month that actually there were no money. We had to get rid of all these players. There's no cash. We're skinned. You can't do both.
Yeah. A lot of talk the talk without walking the walk. And it's, it happens consistently, right? And I mean, part of me feels like it probably is making up for last season. We had, probably 6 or 7 players that were probably on over 15k a week. I don't know that for certain, obviously, but it felt like it based on the profile of the players. So we're probably making up for that. And if that's the case, then say that's the case. But it's going through loops, and they're catching each other out at different points, and club are saying one thing, Evans comes out and says another thing, and then it's just messy. It's really messy. And let's not even mention that it's, Mpanzu, who's a great player, was apparently their number 1 target going into the transfer window, even though he said the number 1 transfer target was a striker. And Mpanzu only found out about the interest in the afternoon of the last day of the transfer window. So honestly, anything that happens from this point out, you can't believe. If you do believe it, you're a sucker for Evans's games and his walk the walk mentality that he can't do. And I just you keep saying these quotes and saying like what like they're just lying, and it's no crap, they're lying. Like obviously we've known this since he came in. Everything that happens and everything that's said that looks like it's promising or look like it's good is just shot down within 2 or 3 months based on actions. It's that actions speak louder than words, and there's no backing up behind any of what is either promised, said, or stated at any point. Even you can even go back to pre-Steve Evans with the whole director of football that there was going to be a new life, new change, new way to set up behind the scenes, and nothing came of it. It happened for 3 months, and then when stuff hit the fan, it was completely abandoned because, well, there's no commitment. So yeah, I mean, not surprised at all by the comments. I just think every Millers fan sort of has to just, as bad as it is to say, accept that anything that comes out of Rotherham United Football Club is probably not true.
Yeah. John Wells says, Matt, I feel like you're going to say very soon you actually believe Steve Evans. You can't not allowed to point out when Steve Evans lies. It's blasphemy or something like that, I think. Harry says, what are the chances that Stuart accepts the interview with advertiser? Scott Kent, 0. Yeah, the club will put out something, I suspect, in the next month or two. But like anything internal, you've always, it's not as good as it could be. I'll come from this slightly different angle, Kevin. Say maybe I do have a little bit of sympathy for Steve Evans in all this, which might surprise people, because everything going on behind the scenes is obviously a mess. And Steve Evans has to do 3 interviews a week, 4 interviews a week. Yeah. He's got to say something, and I feel like he's just been hung out to dry a little bit by the people behind the scenes. And I don't think with all the budget stuff, I don't think he's necessarily lying. I just think he's just trying to say something, maybe trying to keep the fans on side, but the messaging then behind it makes him look stupid almost, with all these kind of things coming from kind of in the background, maybe.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fact that the advisors of the club, not just for Steve Evans, the advisor of Tony Stewart, I don't know where they get the messaging. They just put out, like you mentioned, the silence. There's never any official communications, never any. That's why people make their own assumptions and believe that they're lying and the lies. They always say the wrong thing. The advice they're getting, all of them, is absolutely shocking. Like Steve Evans, I believe he has a saying what Paul Davies kind of writes to an extent. He has to prove it before it's printed. So he knows what he's saying. And to come out with that statement that's the highest, we now know it's probably League One budget, the highest League One budget. For him to say that, it almost makes him look an even bigger whopper than he is, because if you then look at Paul Warren's team, who had Smudge and Chirag Bene and Dan Barlasser and Victor Johansson and Matt Crooks and all them on less and got that, it just makes a mockery of it even more. It makes him look has done an even worse job than he actually has. It don't make any sense. All we want is truth and honesty, and we'll never get it, because for all Evans says about him and Tony Stewart being so close and went to his daughter's wedding and all that bullshit, it's bullshit, isn't it? It's bullshit because they're not that close. They clearly don't talk. They get advised to say the wrong things at the wrong times, and it just winds fans up. And we'll never know the truth. Never ever.
No, we won't. I've got a few bits I also want to just confirm. We've talked about information not given, or lies is a very strong word, so I'm not going to go quite go there yet. But so a few bits from the fans forum. I just went back to the fans forum and had a look at a couple of bits. We were told on the 27th of June there'd be a 4-week update on Guests and Crimes. It's February. Also on a Steve Evans one is that he said he was going to lower the average age of the squad, because last season he fit for around 42. The average age of the squad this year is a year older. Anything you want to add on that, Danny? I think we'll come to you in the Bradford game. Anything else you want to add on that, what we've just kind of covered?
I mean, it sort of plays into what I said on Radio Sheffield's at the end of the deadline day. We want more communication and less bluster. And as soon as the first interview comes out about the deadline day, it's all bluster. I mean, all right, fair enough. It was more Paul Rayner commenting on it more than Steve Evans, but you just look at it and just go, he said so much without saying anything. No, he said what we all believe. Like, all right, fair enough. We've signed 3 good players, but it's not enough. And he's virtually said, yeah, we tried for a striker, but nothing happened with it because of this, that, and other. And it's just like, you had a month to sort this. Steve Evans said at the start of January, his target is a striker, right? And we've signed 3 midfielders. So it's what? And he said that Mpanzu was his number 1 target. But Thomas just said there that he found out on the afternoon of the deadline day. That's where we wanted that Rotherham was the club that wanted to loan him. It feels there's so much of a wall between us, the fans, and what the club is trying to tell us at the minute. That's where the disconnect comes from. We just want honesty. And this is what I said to Radio Sheffield. If the honest plan for the rest of this season is to consolidate League One and have a firm backbone, which some could argue we do, some could argue we don't, and then go from there, fair enough. If that's the honest answer, we can accept that and we can move on to next season. But to keep up this charade of going for the playoffs, going for promotion, that's why we signed these 3 players. It doesn't make sense because we have such a depleted squad, both with injuries and the players we've let go and the players that we've brought in, that we don't have adequate backup in certain areas to be challenging for this season. But we don't want to make that assumption ourselves, but that's what we've had to do. If we were to look at the squad and go, yeah, it's depleted, and everyone would come out and say, yeah, it's depleted, we tried our best, it hasn't happened, so we're going to consolidate in League One and go again in the summer, fair enough, I can accept that. But to keep going, oh yeah, we're going to try for playoffs, yeah, we can still get promotion out of this squad. No, we can't. Because every single team that's been promoted from this division, whether it's automatics or promotion, has had an in-depth squad with covering positions that has got results that needed getting. I mean, look at the Paul Warren squad where we finished second and won the EFL trophy. Yeah, it was a small squad, but we had adequate cover in decent positions and we worked hard, we got on with it, we had the right tactics and we did well. That is probably one of the best Rotherham teams, bar the team that finished just shy of getting promotion to the first division in the 50s, right? Purely by what they achieved. This team is nowhere near that because we've just not had the adequate facilities to get it done. You know, I mean, I know Kev swore before me, but I'll say we haven't got the facilities to get shit done this season, and it's showing. And that is why we are bottom half of the table, which we are. We're just in bottom half, and I don't think we're going to finish any higher than 12th this season. But we need telling. We need the transparency to say, yeah, it's not worked out this season. We'll go again next season. But we've not had that, and that's why there's such a tear in the fan base. Like, yeah, they're saying get behind the lads, but tell us where we want to be. And we've not had that. We have a dream of where we want to be, but we're so far below par. We're basically on +7, and it's not good enough. But I've been saying that all season.
No. The problem is now if the club did come out and say it's almost too late, isn't it? The damage is kind of done now.
Exactly. If they come out and said it before January, fair enough. But now it's February. It's too late now.
Yeah. We'll just keep peddling the line. We'll come back to the league in a minute, but let's cover off the Bradford game, Mick. The big chance of Wembley really this season, the playoffs is a little bit far away, but it was the big chance against the League Two team as well. Not a good League Two team, but nothing special. But just poor. We didn't really turn up. First half was really we had most of the possession, but I felt like we were always at arm's length, and they did step up their performance in the second half. I know they scored from a penalty and they didn't create too much, but they probably did deserve to win.
Yeah, probably. Just about. Two god-awful sides, weren't they? An awful game. Two poor sides. Penalty decided it. Yeah. That about sums up the evening, doesn't it? There weren't a highlight. In fact, probably no. I think the highlight of the evening was Josh Ayres' header down to Hugo. Yeah. That's about it. If that's and that kind of sums up a lot of this season. So yeah, I think they just about pipped it in terms of quality, if that is the right word to use, because I don't think it is. They were just slightly better than us, weren't they? So yeah, disappointing, really disappointing. Particularly after the performance they put in against Birmingham on Saturday. I appreciate that the team was virtually the same. There were a couple of changes, but it weren't a mass exodus of players out of the squad, out of the starting 11. So yeah, very disappointing performance and result, but yeah, whatever. We could have maybe made a bit of money out of a Wembley final against Birmingham or Wrexham, but that's not going to happen. So we'll concentrate on league. We're only 7 points off playoffs.
Only 7 points. 3-game week next week. So
and just popping back to what you were saying there about why they're telling us we're still in with playoffs. We are only 7 points off the playoffs. Yeah. An absolutely crap league. So I'm fully, for me, behind the club, not coming out and saying, "Oh no, we're not. We're just this season's dead and buried," because this season isn't dead and buried because of the quality of this league. You what?
I thought you were going to jump on the party bus to Wembley for the playoffs. Then are you not?
I'm not going to do that. But
you were getting excited then.
Ultimately, the way that we've been playing and the quality, the way that the way we've been playing, we're not going to make it. But it's not out of the question. No. It's not out of the question because of how poor this league is, not because of anything that we're any good at. So they're not going to come out and say that at the moment.
No. Ian Bradley says, so very disappointed the Chickens deserve the win. Yeah. The games like that, Tom, any game ever nowadays is about how you can also then affect the game in the second half as well. We had a literally bench full of kids. Now, there is mitigations to that. Nombe and Kelly were suspended and Dango was cup tied because he played Man United under 21s. So that hasn't helped the situation, Tom. But they were bringing on players. They made all 5 substitutions and they were able to impact the game. We were able to bring on Jack Holmes, who did okay, and Josh Ayres, again, who did okay. but they're just not able to impact the game. And if you can't impact the game from the bench, you're not. To be honest with you, you're not going to win that many games because how many other teams can make.
Yeah. Well, we saw a similar thing against Birmingham as well. I mean, we spoke about it at length, but in that game, Birmingham brought on 2 quality players that probably, they changed shape, changed the way that they played, and they didn't have much more joy, but they had more energy and something different about them that when we bring on players, it's almost like you sort of giving players minutes for the sake of it. And for me, it's just not. It just summed up where we were and where a League Two side were. In all honesty, it felt like that first half was sort of our chance to go and claim it, and we didn't because missed chances here, misplaced passes here. We weren't great. We were okay, but we weren't great. And then that second half, it seemed like they sort of came together and thought we could get at these here, and they did, and they were better. They were the better team. They deserved to win. It was nowhere near a fair contest. If you would have, as a neutral, you look at that game and you think, who is League Two, who's League One? You old trope, but you would have said it's the other way around because it was. We looked devoid of ideas from from the first minute onwards, basically, and that's worrying because that was if that starts against Shrewsbury at the weekend, you probably think it's near enough a first 11 based on injuries and suspensions aside. It's just not good enough. It's really not good enough. You speak there about Nombe, Kelly, and Gore being unavailable for this match in particular. Nombe may have affected the game. Gore, we've not seen enough of to decide it, but those 3 players for me aren't your 3 best players and wouldn't have affected that game as much as everyone thinks. That team, that 11 should have won no matter what. And I don't know whether they were devoid of ideas, whether it's because they had a lack of threat going up front because they did, or whether they're just simply shattered because to me, they look dead on their feet from minute 1. They look disinterested, fatigued, and just not. They had no clue what they were doing, and that's worrying. It's worrying, and that's going to go on throughout the season from this point onwards. I think I can't see it getting better personally, unless players return from injury quick.
Yeah, I just emphasise numbers. There was a point on Tuesday where Hacks was playing as a striker.
Yeah.
And we probably signed him as a striker, didn't we? To be fair,
I thought we signed him as a right back, even though he played in midfield. Job in defence.
Just what you need. And then you're having to bring Josh Ayres on, who's been on a lot at Sheffield. So you're actually did okay, but it shines a light on depth. Kev, just on the goal penalty that they got. Paul Rainer said it was just outside the box. I haven't watched it, but real time, I thought it was a clear penalty, to be honest with you. I think we got away with one a little bit earlier as well.
I was going to say that I think they could have had potentially 2 before. They were a handball as well. And I think as a Rotherham fan, if they had not been given 4, I'd have been fuming, I think. And as soon as they played that pass across, you could see. Oh God, who was it out of position now? Who gave the penalty away? James, Reece James. You could see he were way out of position, and the kid obviously just cut in, nailed on penalty. Fully expected it, but for me, it was the whole. I think Bradford were poor, but I think the middle of the park that's where they won the game. I think we'll call Halliday, little kid. It reminded me of that Dobry from Chesterfield. He got the ball, and for me, that's what we're screaming out of missing a player because we've got no creativity, and he gave them that difference, just like Dobry does at Chesterfield. We don't play it wide, so if we don't play it wide, surely you need it in centre. We ain't got that. And I think Richie Smallwood ran the show. He were outstanding. They were the best of a bad bunch, I admit that. But he were out whether he played better because he came back to Rotherham, I don't know. But we fully, like Tom said, we fully deserved to lose. If a neutral watched, they'd probably thought we were the League Two team and they were the League One team. It was that bad. But I think it goes back to like we said at the beginning, the squad depth. He couldn't bring anybody on. Josh Ayres. I'm glad he got a bit of game time and all that. But let's be right, he's not going to be winning his games at that stage of his career. So to only be able to fetch on 18-year-old kids, and that 11 what were on the pitch, by the way, were our best 11 available as well. So yeah, just poor from like Tom says from first minute onwards. It was shocking.
Yeah, exactly. The penalty was a good penalty. we said before this, though, Mick. Richie Smallwood taking penalty. Stand up, stand tall, because he's just going to smash it. And he did, straight down the middle.
Richie Smallwood played for our club.
Yep.
Under Evans.
Under Evans. We know exactly what he's going to do with that penalty. Exactly what he's going to do with that penalty. We called it. We called it before he did it, and it was always going to go straight down middle. And to be fair, our keeper's already diving before Small was taking his last step. He hadn't even made contact with the ball. He's already diving. You knew exactly where it was going to go. Just stand up.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's harsh. No. I think on keeper, but nevertheless,
it's brave to stand up on them penalties, isn't it? It's very brave.
It is, but it's not quite as brave as diving completely the wrong way, because that looks just as stupid, doesn't it? You know what I mean? But I know that's what keepers do. Like, they pick a side and they go for it. I understand that, and they obviously know better than us. But
Were you more frustrated with the performance, Mick, or are you frustrated that it's a missed opportunity to get through to a serious stage of the competition?
I'm past being disappointed, mate. Okay. Past disappointment's gone. That went a long time ago. I'm not really that bothered one way or the other, quite frankly. I'm disappointed that I had to sit, I think, cold and get cold while we're watching it. But it's just, the performance was poor. The result was reflected the performance, but then that's what's happened for the most of the season, isn't it? When the performances have been decent, the results have reflected that. So it's tactics. You and I will argue till the cows come home, Matt. But for me, tactically, again, Reece James is left exposed because we're playing too narrow in middle. We do it all the time. Yes, it does work sometimes, but the vast majority of the time, it doesn't work. And Tuesday was another example of that for me, anyway. But ultimately, it was just a poor performance, wasn't it? And what we deserved.
Yeah, fair enough. How are you saying? Sky are happy, close to the big match with Wrexham and Wembley. Wrexham Birmingham at Wembley, they would be all over that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, they'd love it. Is it more frustration now, or is it added frustration in there that not only is it a missed opportunity for everything else, but players didn't turn up, especially after that really good performance at Birmingham? All right, a good performance against Birmingham, where most of the players turned up to a certain extent, and we got done by them bringing the quality on. None of the players turned up. And again, 2 games from Wembley, this is the time to turn up in this competition. And Bradford stepped up. And Paul Rayner talked this about post-match, didn't he, about players kind of the ones not stepping up. And it's February. It should have worked out by now, I thought.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, it makes you think which players is that directed at? Because that comment is quite clearly directed at somebody. I mean, look what happened when it was announced that Cohen Bramall had signed for Portsmouth. Evans definitely directed some of those comments at him very, very harshly. So I wonder which players that's directed at. I mean, we can all have a guesses in the comments. Please feel free to comment and have a go. But that Bradford game was one of those performances where it was just like, it needed the motivation and it needed the, come on, lads, we need to get up for this. And it never happened. And possibly it's down to the players we've got at the minute. Possibly it's down to the lack of squad depth and the youth players that came in. Special shout out to Reece Wilson, by the way, on the bench, who is the son of my gaffer's mate. So fair play on making the matchday 11 for the first time. Fair play. I was told that today, by the way, so I just thought I'd mention it. But you look at the penalty decision as well. Reece James did something very similar earlier in the game and it got waved off, right? So, and he did it again. And so that's in the referee's head that second time, and he keeps doing that. And so he's more inclined to give it. And going back to what I've said before and what Tam said earlier, again, it's a performance that's not good enough. We have beaten this team beforehand in this competition at their place as well. So, all right, devil's advocate, maybe they've got a bit, maybe they've got a bit more motivation to come into our place and beat us in this competition now. But at the same time, from Rotherham players taking penalties under Steve Evans, so it's like he should know how to deal with that. He should have communicated that to Cam Dawson and how to deal with it. But it doesn't feel like he has, or Cam Dawson hasn't listened to it. And like Mick said earlier, it felt like we were the League Two team. You know, Mutual might say, "Oh, there's not much difference between 7th in League Two and whatever position in League One we are at the minute." But again, we should have the advantage. We should be the better team in this situation, and it wasn't that. And it goes back to what Steve Evans said in the fans forum earlier, Matt, where he'd love to take Rotherham to Wembley again this season. He's failed in this competition. He's currently failing at doing it in the league. All right, there's 7 points, but a few teams between us. And it's just, I think it's one of those where it's staring us in the face this season where it will ultimately go down as a failure.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not comfortable with that. After all the communication we have from the club, we were hoping this season will be a success, and everything has turned out the other way, both in league position, performance level, performance motivation, tactics, signings in January, signings in the summer. It's all below par. And I really do hope it changes in the summer, as we all do as Rotherham fans. We hope we kick on next season, but it is a case of the conversation is now next season rather than this season.
Yes, it is. Well, you know, just not kill it off too soon. Scott Kent said the lives are absolutely shard. Saturday, says Rayner, saying we were lackluster, etc. What do you expect? With no backups to change things.
Exactly.
Players. We've got another 3-game week as well. So imagine what we're going to like next Saturday at Shrewsbury. Just on Reece James, some kind of moves us across to Saturday as well. That's a couple of goals now that Reece James has been involved in, and is kind of costing us a little bit now. He's has been initially the one that we could kind of rely on. He weren't making too many mistakes, but there's obviously a couple of the penalty and maybe 1 or 2 more he could have conceded. The first goal at Birmingham as well. He's just dipped in his levels a little bit. I mean, I ain't going to worry about it because nobody's going to take his place, but he has dropped his levels at the minute.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. You know, if nobody's going to come and take your place, you got nothing to worry about. There's no pressure. And I'm not saying that he's not a professional and probably doesn't take pride in how he plays and whatnot. But if a player's having a bad run, you don't play him. Like it's pretty simple. Could be your best player. You know, we all know how limited he is, but Clark Harris is arguably Evans' marquee man. He's not good, not performing. He drops him, and suddenly we've gone on a bit of a run. So, in regards to James, he got absolutely done inside out, left to right by Ethan Laird, and same again happened against another wing back that, you know, he looked to me dead on his feet, and we all we you know, reservations about James Shaw, but as it goes, he's a capable left back. He's a steady League One left back, but to me, he looks dead on his feet, not very confident defensively, and it's genuinely costing us games at this point. What do? You probably bring in a left back, but as we've said multiple times this season, you're not going to put Louis Sibley there. You're not probably going to put Zach Jules there. So then, what you're left with, it's to me again, it's poor recruitment, poor excuses, and you know, fingers have to be pointed at the player, of course. But when you are going through a tough time like this, coming out of the limelight and out of the, you know, off the pitch and sort of getting your confidence back is probably what you need. It's not going to happen for him, and I hate to say it, but he's probably going to keep costing us more and more goals until something's solved, and it's not going to get solved quick.
I listen. I don't think I agree with what Tom said there up to a point, but I don't necessarily blame Reece James. I don't blame Joe Rafferty. Both those players are not constantly, but regularly getting exposed because they've got no support in front of them. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but because of the way that we play, at least one of those fullbacks, right or left, is always going to be exposed. Because of the shape that we play, we're so narrow in midfield, so narrow, and if a team switches the ball reasonably quickly from one side to the other, that fullback is going to be exposed, and it's happening time and time again. We don't know about it. We don't do anything about it. We continue to play the same formation, and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times we have to go through this process, but we've had 5 or 6 games just recently where we've been successful, because we've, for whatever reason, we've gone at teams, or teams have not exploited that. However, time and again, for the 23 games run up to Christmas, and in the last few games, we've been exposed. Burton did it 3 or 4 times during that game, and scored 2 or 3 of them. You know, Reece James again, like you say, has been a couple of times where he's been beaten. People have got him round the back of him because he's exposed. He's got no support. That it doesn't work in the way that they're trying to play it. But we're continually trying to do the same thing, and we're going to get the same results. Don't work. That's my view. But I'm not a professional. I'm not a football coach.
No. I'll say to you what I said on Tuesday. It has worked though. So what's changed over the last few games? Because it wasn't this formation that was working.
Because teams have not taken advantage of it. The teams that we've beaten, the Lincolns and everybody else, have not taken advantage of that. Burton absolutely stitched us up with it. They stitched us up. Boyer had done his bit of research, and it took they just nailed it. They absolutely nailed it, and many other teams have done the same. And that's just one part of it. You couple in with it the lack of confidence and just the overall apathy that's been throughout the squad through most of the season as well. You know, that just adds to it. But fundamentally, we're getting torn apart at times, and the fullbacks are getting exposed because of the formation. Don't work.
Fair enough. So what you're saying is we might be seeing another classic Steve Evans formation change coming up shortly. Then is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, will we? But I don't think we will, because he's not changed it all season, has he?
Well,
you know,
yeah.
Rainer's on bench screaming and shouting at people to stay narrow. Keep it narrow. Well, yeah, all right, mate. That seems to be doing well. Let me know at the end of the season how that works for you. Because we can see how it's working now, can't we?
Fair enough. We'll see.
Mick rant.
That were a long rant, that.
Right, let's kind of move forward a little bit, Kev, but bigger picture as well. 7 points off the playoffs. It is a 3-game week. You got Shrewsbury second bottom, Blackpool mid-table, and then Reading are just outside the playoffs. It's a big week. I think it's the last 3-game week for a little while, and chooses our game in hand as well. So it is a potential to get. I mean, you're not going to be in the playoffs, obviously, but it gives you a really good chance to be close if you can string a couple of performances together. Your backers at home, backers maybe away at Blackpool as well. It's potentially a big week.
Huge week, really. Like, weirdly, we are still within a fighting chance of getting playoffs, which is, considering how shit we've been, it is a testimony. So we should take that grab that by the arms and go with it, but we probably won't. It's a massive week. Shrewsbury's, everyone's thinking Shrewsbury's going to be a walkover. They're not. I know we're going to talk about Ainsworth later, but you're on about managers doing their own work. Like Mick said, Vertu manager, Gary Thingy did his own work on us. Great manager, and it worked. Gareth Ainsworth will be doing that. He knows. He'll know our weaknesses. Absolutely. And then Blackpool away and Reading away. Far from easy games. Nobody wants to go to Blackpool on a cold Tuesday night. I didn't want to go on a cold Saturday a few months back, but I did. But no one wants to go on a cold Tuesday night and play there. They're not a bad team, especially at home. And Reading, I know they've just lost Sam Smith, is it? Not the one who dressed the woman. The other one. They've just lost him. But they've still got a decent squad. It's that young guy, they've got a decent squad. They'll no easy games. I can generally see us all getting 1 point from the next 3 games, and that is shocking considering we've got Shrewsbury at home and two winnable away games. But I can, 1 or 3 points max. That's how poor we are. Squad depth, everything, tactics, like what everyone's saying tonight, mix for everything. We're all right in one way or another.
Yeah, we are. Chris saying Mick was right. Jerry Femi says, here, Mick should go for a column in the Advertiser.
That's Mick not be through the door later.
Yeah. We'll see. This is where I normally come to you, Danny. Go, so what do you think? Do you think he'll change this? Do you think he'll do this, that, and other? He can't really. The only thing I can see change coming would be Nombe to come back in for Hugo That's a no-brainer. McWilliams is another couple of weeks away. Clark Harris, I think, is 10 days away. The only player that could come in is Dan Gore, but could you see him coming in? I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'd be surprised as well. But I mean, he sort of showed what he's worth in the game that he has played for us. Like, obviously, cup tied in the last game, but Shrewsbury under Gareth Ainsworth. I mean, we used to be terrified of Gareth Ainsworth at Wickham because of his terrorist football. And you can go back and watch the podcast on that. His football was horrendous at Wickham. Now, I've not seen a lot of Shrewsbury this season. I'm sure you'll tell us more on the scout report, Matt. But with it being Gareth Ainsworth, is it not happening this week?
I had time.
Shame. Anyway, but any Shrewsbury fans watching, let us know. Is it still the terrorist football where he just digs in and the ball's in play for 35 minutes? If it is, we'll lose this game easily. You know, because we can't cope with that sort of play. We have to cope with the play that they play out from the back and let us into the game. We have to rely on teams to let us into the game rather than forcing our way into the game. I'm just looking on FootMob now, and by the looks of it, Shrewsbury play a 3-4-1-2. So it's slightly more defensively orientated, but at the same time, they can still find the holes in our team with that, especially with how depleted we are and how we can't change the system out wide. So I don't know. It feels like it's going to be one of them games where it's going to be a really mucky game and one team will win it 1-0. A bit like the Bradford game. It'll be a mucky game, equally as bad as each other. And someone will probably win it 1-0. And Shrewsbury have got the exact same record as us in the last 5 going into this game. We've lost 3-1-2. They've lost 3-1-2. Their teams are obviously slightly below the ones we've played, but not a million miles away. So I don't know with this one, lads. I really don't know with it. Best we can hope for is potentially a 1-0 win our side, hopefully.
Yeah,
it could legit boil down to home advantage. That's how thin this game could be.
Well, they do have an awful away record, joint worst in the division. Only one victory away from home this season. That was a 5-3 win at Crawley, I think November time or something like that. So it is a very, very, very poor record they have. Our record against Shrewsbury is pretty good. Only one defeat in the last 8, but that was a 3-0 victory just after the Papa John's Trophy final, which was a really, really bad afternoon. I think Angus McDonald might have got sent off that afternoon. I didn't check that though.
I remember that game. Absolutely screaming bloody murder at our front line to press the ball, and they refused to do it the entire game. I remember that one.
Yeah.
I think we were still over from Wembley, weren't we?
What us up players?
Yeah,
both.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's going to be. Darren Cook says here, Kev, get Kev to talk about Hugel's chest control. You like to give the people what they want.
Well, I think I did make a comment on Twitter. It's almost like imagine having your chest bones removed and put in a Silent Night mattress, because that's what it looks like. It literally just bounces off him. Honestly, I've never known anybody try and chest the ball and it end up 15 yards away. You're supposed to cushion it. This guy, nah. Katie Price were in Barnsley the other night. I'm sure she's got better chest control than him. It's unbelievable.
I just think I was drinking at the wrong time there.
Noel Jordan says he'd rather play Mick instead of Hugo. At least Mick would put the effort in.
I've got
the glasses are wonky.
Well, it's my head that's wonky, mate, not glasses. My chest control's just like what Kev was talking about there, and also
Katie Price.
Yeah,
it's a very good jump for that, Mick, I must say.
Back to Shrewsbury, Tom. They're a poor team. They're as poor as Cambridge, they're as poor as Burton. We beat one, lost to the other. Do you see are you feeling positive at all? It was Tuesday just so much of a kick in the gut that any positivity from the performance from Birmingham's disappeared a little bit.
Oh my God, it's such a 50-50 whoever turns up, right? Because you could have, like Kev said before, that was our first 11 on Tuesday, and it was as bad as it could be. Whereas against Birmingham, you could add 2 players to that maybe, and it's probably competing against top of the league who've spent, into the tens of millions. And it's just such a 50-50 that you get. And, I think Mick said it before that we never play well against teams that don't really like the ball and teams that sort of press us a bit. We just don't play well against them. So it's such a tough say, because there's times this season where we've probably outplayed any team in the league, and Shrewsbury no different. But there's always a possibility that we just don't turn up. We underestimate. They play us better at that sort of physicality game and getting in your face game. And it's such a tough game to call. Obviously I want to say that we'll probably get the upper hand, but weirdly enough, I don't have much faith as it stands. I think we might scrape it, maybe result wise, but performance wise, I think it'll be below par personally. And I don't think we've won against them since like Smudge's last minute, right?
I think the playoff for the last week, there'll be a couple of draws. Draws and lost the last 2 or 3 years.
No, Smudge's last minute. That's the last time we won in the league.
Yeah, sorry, in the league. Yeah. It would be, yeah.
I'm just saying 6 years ago is not,
Yeah.
it's sort of a bogey team in a weird way. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Ref watch is Dale Baines. Never refereed us before. Nothing to add on that one. But I hope he's a strong ref. You don't want him encouraged by the crowd, like has been the case before.
The referee against Bradford, by the way, we haven't mentioned him. He was shocking.
He was awful.
Wow.
Yeah, it got progressively worse as the game went on, didn't he? And by the time we got to 80th minute, after 80th minute, he just completely lost control again.
I'd hate to have seen him referee a game when there's 10,000 crowd there, because it will give him fouls based on what the 2,000, 3,000 there were shouting for. So, God, when he's got 10,000 around him telling him what to do, he'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, towards the end where Josh Ayres were running towards ball, and their player touched him, and he gave fell against Ayres. It was just all. It was very, very poor. I'm not going to say this guy can't be worse, because I've seen worse, but we'll hope that it can't be much worse. Right, let's move on to predictions. I said on the last episode there is a big update in the predictions league.
Oh God,
it's very close to the predictions league now. The top 3 are all level on points. Mick, Tom, and Joy are all level on points on 18. Danny only 3 points behind. Kev only 3 more points behind, and Ben's a further 3 points behind. So it's all.
Considering I've gone for 3-0 every week, that's not bad.
It's not all
really decent.
That is so good.
It's not bad at all. Still well with a shout here. So we're going to. Steve Evans says, to be fair, when you get February, March, then that's when things start getting serious, and that's when things are starting to get serious in our prediction league. In the real league, it's all pointless. But we'll see. Right, we have some predictions already. We have Joy, who has gone 3-1. Ben, who has gone 2-1 to us. So far, nobody's gone against us. Kev, sticking with it, sticking with the 3-0.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Tom, I'll go Danny first. Sorry, Danny, you're 3 points behind the leading 3. Where are you going?
Yeah, the pressure's on now. Well, just looking at our recent results, bear in mind we've won 4-2, then lost 4-2, and then won 2-1, and lost 2-1, and then lost 1-0. So I'm going for 1-0 win to Rotherham.
Oh no, that's
logic to
it.
Yeah, I like it.
Tom,
I'm gonna say a 2-0 win, but I'm reserved on that judgment. I think it might be a very surprising result.
So you don't want to go for the surprising result?
No, because I can't say what it would be. I can just say. I think it might be I'm going 2-0. I'll stop talking.
Fair enough. Mick, you were top of the league. I think at one point you were 6 points clear.
Yeah,
this is a pretty big collapse.
I tell you why. Listen, it's that diamond formation I've been playing for the last 3 or 4 months. It's just not working. So I need to change it. up. Shrewsbury managed by Gareth Ainsworth. This is going to be An absolutely awful game. Always is. It doesn't matter who's our manager is. It's got nothing to do with us, nothing to do with our manager, our team, or anything. Gareth Ainsworth's coming to town with one of his teams. It's going to be garbage because it always is whenever we play one of his sides. I'm going to go 1-0. I think it's going to be 1-0. And the question is to who? And I think it'll be to us. So I'm going to go 1-0 us.
Mick's not letting me get that result if it comes in, is he?
Is that what you went for?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that.
Everybody's gone for a win, so you would have struggled to get a different one. So yeah, everybody's gone for a win. So 3-1, 2-1, 3-0, 2-0, and 2-1-0s. Obviously, we've got the game midweek next week as well, which will impact the results as well. There was talk of people doing protests and banners on Saturday's game for the Stuart out campaign. Can anybody see anything significant happening with that, or think it's all going to be a bit of bullshit?
A lot of shit, and there's no point. There's no point. The thing is with this, we've all got his thoughts on Tony Stewart. We've got his thoughts on Paul Douglas. None of us have ever run a football club, so as much as we can comment, by doing this, by protesting, by throwing a tennis ball with Stuart out at him and stuff like that, it's pointless. If anything, it's going to make the situation worse because what we don't want, we've got to be very careful. What we don't want is him to just pull plug. If he pulls plug, we're in trouble, big trouble. So, my advice will be if you're going to protest, protest with your feet, vote with your feet. Don't go. I'm not going. I'm not going Saturday. I can't. Well, I'm actually doing Soccer Saturday Challenge Saturday, but I'm still not going to football. But I saw Barnsley. They're doing they're protesting. Apparently, their chairman's been in charge 8 years. So they're asking everybody to wait outside the ground until 8 minutes into the game and then walk in and get behind the team. That for me is a good protest. No point chanting about Tony Stewart throwing balls and all that. It's going to have the adverse effect for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Harry says, on the timeline, an old tweet from Stuart about Rotherham being in the Premier League in 3 to 5 years in 2016.
Best laid plans. That's all I'm saying. Best laid plans.
Any you three want to add anything on what Kev just mentioned? Are you happy with that?
I'll just jump in on what Kev says. I mean, over Rotherham's quite turbulent recent history in the last 3 decades or so. Tony Stewart is probably the best chairman we've had, and we all have grievances with him. Don't get me wrong. We all have grievances. We all think he'd do this better, that better, this, that, and that. But at the end of the day, we wouldn't have a football club without him. And that does earn him some sort of respect. But it's now the next step that he needs to take with it, which is the important one. Like, he's done the big job, if you like. It's now the little jobs that he needs to seal up, like a little bit of funding there, a little bit of competitive edge there. And he hasn't quite cracked it, I don't think. I think that's the main thing. He hasn't quite cracked it, or he doesn't quite have the football knowledge to do that. And I don't think that's a fault of his own. I think that's his business head that's doing it. Like, we could ramble on for 3 hours about this, don't get me wrong. And I'm sure you will in the comments after the video as well. But out of the bunch that we've had, he's the best of the bunch. And that does earn him a bit of respect. So I think the whole tennis ball approach and everything isn't warranted. I think if you're a Man United fan and you're doing it to Jim Radley, fair enough. They've stopped playing their Christmas bonuses to staff. Fair enough. Go and do that at Old Trafford. But with us, it's not quite there. It just needs a bit of a what's the word? A kick up the backside. Possibly, or more of a kick up the backside to show him what the correct path is. So yeah, I think the whole tennis ball approach is a bit daft because we aren't in that much trouble. We're just not performing well on the pitch this season. We're not complete relegation fodder. We're not bottom of the league. We're not changing manager every 2 weeks or anything. We are quite a steady League One club, and that is our bottom line this season, which 20 years ago we would have prayed for.
Yeah.
But right now, we want to be back to Championship football, which I think a lot of Rotherham fans want us to do. But that is a tall order in the current climate of football. We've done well to be there initially. But bottom line, we're still a League One club. And even if that's bottom line, we're not happy about it because we should be at the top of League One. It's still a decent baseline to have for Rotherham United, isn't it? We are currently at the average of what our league position says over our 99-year history. So it's not bad, but it's not good at the same time. So it's a steady average. I'll take that rather than it being awful.
I think Danny's made some good points, but I think we all sorts of. I think it's right. It's always surround himself with. Tony Stewart is a brilliant businessman, hence why he's worth £100 million. But he's a good businessman at selling streetlights to councils and stuff like that. He's really good at that. What is failed for me is, yes, he was our saviour, and yes, he gave us this brand new ground and blah, blah, blah. He's not surrounding himself with the right people. He's got the wrong advising. He's not got the director. He's not done it all. And that's where he's lacking. He's never run a football club before. So he should have took advice from people rather than just think, I'm Tony Stewart, I can run a football club.
Yeah, it's like I say with his decision making. Yeah, he's surrounding himself with people who are business orientated people, but they're not football orientated people.
Exactly.
Fair enough, Mick. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, you're living in past just because he saved us. Don't buy him any credit. You just want to go back to old days. That's all. Of course, listen. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said there. I think. We said this about Paul Warne, or I said this about Paul Warne. You know, he got us to the Championship, and he kind of reached his level. He reached his ceiling in terms of where he was as a manager, and he continues to show that at Derby. You know, he's a low Championship, upper end of League One manager, and he's very, very good at that. I think Tony Stewart's reached his ceiling as well in terms of, and whether that, I don't mean necessarily through his ability, but through his willingness to fund any further. Development of the club. You know, he clearly puts a lot of money in. Maybe he'll take some out as well. If he puts it in, he deserves to take it out, because that's the whole point of it. That is the whole point of being in business. Being in business is not just funding something and spaffing your own money up wall and never ever seeing a return on it. That's not how it works in business. And the football club is a business. So ultimately, if he puts £1 million in reality, he wants more than £1 million out. It doesn't matter whether it's a football club, a steel business, or a streetlight business. That's the whole point of it. So it would appear, and we don't know for sure, it would appear he's not getting back what he's putting in. Or if he has, over the 12 years, maybe he has. But why should he?
He's worth a lot more now, though. He's personally worth a lot more now than he was 10 years ago when he took on the football club.
Yeah. But,
so
I know what you're saying, but so am I, so are you.
Would
you be willing to spend half of what you've got or half of what you've earned? I don't know. But ultimately, I don't think he's going to take us forward. I think we're going to stay where we are unless you get somebody else to come in. I think he's done as much as he's capable of doing, whether that be financially or from a business point of view. There are a lot more. It does feel like there's a lot more opportunities that could be explored using that stadium to bring money in. But whether there's any interest in that, I don't know. But I think protesting against him is just it's a modern day thing, isn't it? You know, we're very entitled. Well, we are supporters. That's a we. I don't personally don't feel that I am. I expect Rotherham United to be in League One on average. Pretty much, that's where we should be, and we've been punching above the weight for 12 years now. But people who've started following the club over the last 12 years, and given the way that social media is and modern society is, people are entitled. They think they're entitled to it, and then they get Teddy out of cot when they don't get it. You know, it took minus 30 points and 2 lots of administration before we threw Teddy out of cot all those years ago, and we did eventually. But it took him a doing. Now, you know, you lose 2 games on trot, and everybody should be sacked.
Yeah,
it's just a sign of times, isn't it?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I'm not. I shan't be throwing any tennis balls.
Fair enough. I suppose the frustrating thing is, Tom, that we now look like we're on the downward trend back to where we were. Club have missed an opportunity of being in the Championship for all them years. there was an opportunity to sustain. Whether it was to sell the club or not, I don't know, but to move on to the next level of being a professional football club. And the club have they've wasted that opportunity. And now we're back to where we are. That it feels like that opportunity is now gone to be that next level.
Yeah, but it's football. Literally anything. You could have the best team and still get relegated. You could have the worst team and go up. It's completely like it's not as cut and dry as if you invest, you stay up, because ultimately that's not how football works. It's about so much more than that. And look, we this podcast gets a lot of slate about giving a lot of praise to Warren, but Warren when he left put us in a really good position of not only were we in the in the chat, we were 8th or something of those lines, and we were looking good against teams that were sort of championship through and through. We were looking good against those sort of teams. We had assets in Johansson, Barlassa, Ogbeni, Wiles. We had assets that you could sell for major profit, and we were in a really good position. And a big issue, what happened was we didn't sell those assets for what they were worth. I mean, there's been numerous conversations about this, but Barlassa, even Crooks went for about 2 million or something, and Barlassa, exactly. We missed the mark on a lot of these players. And if you look at about what they're worth now, what they've gone for, you're looking at about 15 to 20 million in assets, not let alone staying in the Championship that one season. You'd have got 40 to 50 million if you were sensible as a business. I know you're saying before about we've looked at this in a business way, but I think there's definitely ways to look at this, as in we absolutely could have gone to another level. And who's to say that we would have spent that money right? We could have bought 20 different Hugo quality players and not had them work out, and we could have been straight back in this position in more debt. We could be in a worse position, we could be in a better position. But what we were in that moment was we weren't a business. You had your assets, you could tie them down, you didn't. Whether or not it's because they didn't want it or because you couldn't afford it, whatever happened, we didn't do it until the very last minute. That's not how business operates. If you truly look at it as a long-term solution, then you sign them on a long-term solution. I don't think I've ever seen anyone sign for more than a 3-year deal. We always sign players for a 2-year deal with an option of a third. Obviously, that option is constantly taken, but we never sign them on a 3-year, 4-year deal. And that's fine, because sometimes they come out like Hugo, where they're sort of rotting away. But yeah, you're completely right. We had a chance to not only stabilize ourselves within the Championship, but make a shit ton of money. This has been said. I'm not putting anything in the swear jar now. But yeah, we had the chance to make a lot of money, and we didn't. We just simply didn't. Ogbeni could have been sold for 5, 6, 7, 8 million. Barlassa similar, Johansson similar, Crooks similar. Yeah, you could go on and on and on. And they all more or less went on a free. I know there was some release clauses in there and last minute deals that came in, but more or less it feels like they all went for a free. What have we got to show for it? A whole squad out of contract in summer 2026. You don't learn, and this is the whole thing. You can argue about business, you can argue about bad ownership, bad businessing. They're not learning. They're not learning from mistakes. They're not learning. They're not coming out and being open. It feels like a very on the pitch, off the pitch, a very regressive culture, which is, Mick, you said, I've been used to the last 12 years of punching above your weight, but because you punched above your weight for over a decade, when do you become a part of that weight class? You can't keep saying that you're punching above your weight, because we absolutely could be a big hitter relatively in the Championship. There are teams that have done it. There are teams that are staying there. Coventry went up with us in that COVID season. They've now got Frank Lampard as manager. Obviously had a bad start to the season, but looking like back-to-back promotion playoff seasons. Yeah. It's not impossible. It's really not impossible, but obviously things have to happen on the pitch, and that's not always guaranteed. But what is always guaranteed is how the clubs run off it, and that's not been consistent. And you've not been learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that deserves a round of applause. That 3 minutes. That was brilliant. Everything Tom said then was bang on for me.
Thank you.
Really agree, Tom. Yeah. Good place to finish, I think. Is there anything else we want to mention before we jack it in for the night?
Oh, could I quickly plug myself?
We've had your bit, Tom. Let someone else.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'll leave it on that. No, I'm writing for Football League World. So if anyone wants to check out any articles Rotherham related, give it a look. If you agree, if you disagree, I'd love to get some feedback. So yeah, just have a look at Football League World online.
Yeah, Tom also wants feedback if it's good or bad. We don't want feedback if it's bad. We all want positive feedback.
Get up for bad feedback.
I get in the WhatsApp group every week, so it's fine.
It's true. It's very true. Thank you everybody for with us tonight. If you have or not already, please do subscribe. As I say, thanks for the people that joined us on deadline day. It was fun. Shame it wasn't more signs, but it was fun to do those couple of hours with you all. We shall be back. The instant reaction will be up Saturday night. Will be an instant reaction of the Shrewsbury game. And then we'll do the review on Sunday evening, which will be a review of Shrewsbury and a look ahead for a trip to the seaside on a cold Tuesday night in February. Yay. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, make sure you've subscribed and give us a 5-star rating where it allows you to do so as well. Mick, Tom, Danny, Kev, thank you all for being with us tonight. We very much appreciate it. We will see you all next time. And as always, up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
I think I always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good Evans, he's done it again. Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favor, drop me off in